AITA I yelled at my daughter-in-law for missing her own son's birth. My daughter gave birth. This is pretty simple in my opinion. My daughter, I'll call her Amber 28F, and her wife, Chloe 32F, decided to have a baby. Amber was due next week and asked me to come and stay with her a few days ago until her giving birth. I gladly did. All this time, Chloe, who is a doctor, worked crazy hours and barely paid Amber any attention. I kept it to myself and thought it would be best if I didn't say anything about it. 2 days ago Amber's water broke and I rushed her to the hospital. She gave birth a week earlier than expected and she needed to have an emergency C-section. All this time I was trying to reach Chloe and she was not available. She showed up a few hours after the birth and said she was sorry she was in the OR and didn't have her phone with her at the time. I got really mad and called her irresponsible. Said it was crazy that she misses her own son's birth and asked her to explain what would have happened if Amber had some kind of a complication during the C-section. Chloe said she couldn't let someone die under her supervision because of this and made it as soon as she could. I still can't believe she obviously doesn't prioritize Amber or her son, but my poor daughter thinks otherwise. She has rose-colored glasses on whenever Chloe is around. Anyway, ever since Amber told me I was out of line and needed to apologize to her wife, she said Chloe already felt horrible and it was not her fault. Chloe hasn't said a word to me, and by the way she still goes to the hospital and doesn't seem to care that her son is here. Was I really the AH here? You wrote all that out and didn't see you are the asshole? Think about it like this. If the doctor that performed the C-section had been in Chloe's shoes and got a page that their wife was in labor, would it be okay for that doctor to just leave your daughter on the OR table and go? Sounds like your daughter understands that her wife is a doctor and that means sometimes they have to miss life events. It isn't great, but it's part of the job. You calling her out on it makes you an asshole. You should apologize to avoid this becoming a bigger problem than it currently and avoid potentially creating a rift between you and your daughter. YTA. How would you have felt if the surgeon who was doing your daughter's C-section stopped what they were doing to take a call and then just left? The nature of the job she does means that this is just a part of their life, and it sounds like your daughter accepts that. Yes. It is a shame that the U.S., I assume you are in the U.S., doesn't have decent parental leave and that people can't afford to do things like take weeks of leave in case the baby is born early or to stay and support once the baby is born, but that is a U.S. societal issue, not a behavior issue on the people affected. YTA. She's a physician. We miss events sometimes. Big ones. It sucks. Hopefully, our families understand. When we miss something, it's because someone else's family takes priority. Would you have understood if the doctor performing the emergency C-section just ducked out in the middle of it? Of course not. It sounds like your daughter has a good grasp of being the wife of a physician. You don't. Stay out of it. It's hard enough as it is. Another physician. YTA. Your daughter asked you to stay with her, probably knowing her wife was not able to stop taking call because of her work. Surgeons work brutal hours. Is Chloe still in residency? At 32 it seems likely that she's either in residency or a very junior position, and probably on call all the time. If Amber is feeling like her emotional needs are met, don't create problems where they don't exist. YTA. Chloe, who is a doctor. She was in the OR. Ma'am. YTA. And shockingly ignorant. A surgeon cannot have their phone on them. And a surgeon has a person's life in their hands. The last thing they need is to be distracted, worried about their partner when they are in the middle of a major procedure. Your efforts to interfere in your daughter's relationship with her wife are selfish and entitled. Your daughter is a grown-ass woman. Let her deal with her own relationship. AITA She's in an operating room with someone's life in her hands and no phone access. Don't know about you, but I'm rather glad phones aren't allowed in the OR team focus. Each person in the room has a focused, concentrated, difficult role for many hours at a time, and one twitch can mean life or death. Stop being dramatic and appreciate this was unavoidable. Even outside the operating room, not everyone has the luxury of a job, manager or employer that would let them go at a moment's notice. Many employers don't allow mobile phones or personal calls at work, even in the situations you describe. This was an unfortunate set of timings. But you are acting like a stuck-up snarky cow and need to leave it. She showed up a few hours after the birth and said she was sorry she was in the OR and didn't have her phone with her at the time. AITA. Amber was not her actual doctor. And being in the OR is a perfectly valid reason to not answer your phone. She couldn't let someone die under her supervision because of this. And you want me to believe that she should have let someone die? Question. How would you have felt if in the middle of your daughter's C-section the doctor answered their phone and suddenly left? Don't other people's children deserve the same care from their doctor that you want for your daughter? AITA. AITA. Amber knew very well how things were when you date a surgeon. It's her choice. You don't like it. It's not relevant. She chose this person and this lifestyle. Sucks that Chloe missed her child's birth. But did you really expected her to leave her patient open on the surgery table to die? AITA. This isn't Grey's Anatomy where surgeons treat their family or where their phones are in the OR so a nurse can check it. Tell the surgeon their baby is on the way. And the surgeon can dramatically storm out. So wait a minute. You would rather someone die? Yes. AITA. A birth is a once-in-a-lifetime event. People shouldn't actually literally die in order to make it though. AITA. She showed up a few hours after the birth and said she was sorry she was in the OR and didn't have her phone with her at the time. I got really mad and called her irresponsible. This can't be real. AITA. She didn't choose to miss it, especially since the timing wasn't expected. Your daughter, the one who gave birth, understands that doctors have to do their jobs. Why can't you? AITA. She was in surgery, so she's the surgeon doing the surgery? What would you have had her do? Oh, I'm sorry. Gotta go. You can die on the table. Question mark. AITA. It's disappointing she wasn't there. But it's not like she was out partying. You don't just stop in the middle of a surgery and say, I'll finish later. One thing to take into account is the old adage, first children are always late. This is incorrect but causes many first-time parents to make plans, assuming that their first children would not come early. I'm my parents' eldest. My dad was in England on a business trip when my mom went into labor in America. 2 weeks early. Everyone had told my parents that it would be okay for him to schedule his business trip that close to my due date because first children are always late, and so my parents mutually agreed on it. He was able to make it home before labor was finished because it was a different time back then, and it was actually possible to get a transatlantic flight at the drop of a hat. But my parents only ended up in that situation because of the advice of others around them. You never mentioned whether Chloe working so close to Amber's due date was a mutual decision by the two of them or not. It could well have been. Chloe is a doctor and there is currently a doctor shortage in the US because the residency system has not expanded to accommodate the increasing number of applicants. And job openings? Some specialties are stretched extra thin right now because when starting med school, students were told, by the time you graduate, this task will be fulfilled by robots. For some kinds of surgery, or AI, for things like radiology, so there won't be job openings for you. So choose a different specialty. Or, it may have been a chance to make more money before her child's birth so she could take more time off after the birth and be in a comfortable and safe financial position to provide for the child. Or it may have simply been a surgery that only she could perform well for some more complicated surgeries. There are very few surgeons who can perform them in a given area because surgeons at that high level tend to specialize. Or it may have been a gamble on the fact that most labors last far longer than a few hours, so she could do a shorter surgery without missing the whole process. Emergency C-sections are rare, and often happen only after labor has been attempted for some time. And maybe Amber was okay with that. So, YTA for making judgments when there are plenty of reasons that Chloe could have absolutely needed to do that surgery, or thought that she had enough time. And you don't know whether Amber agreed or not. She may well have supported Chloe's decisions about work. You never even mentioned whether she does. Instead, you remove her agency by saying she has rose-colored glasses, and distrusting your adult daughter's decision-making. She's a grown-up, a mother now. And you can't just steamroll her own decisions and preferences. YTA being married to a doctor is hard. They work long hours, have a crazy stressful job. Their job is literally life or death for their patients, and they might be called in for emergencies. You are putting more pressure on your daughter's marriage as is. It's probably killing Chloe that she missed the birth of her son, and Amber was likely disappointed too, but you are making the situation so much harder. Apologize to Chloe. Support Amber in taking care of your grandchild and stop butting into their marriage. YTA doctors don't get to suddenly take time off. She most likely has to plan any time off, and that will be when her son was originally due. If Amber isn't worried about this, then you need to give it a rest.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.